Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, and today's video will be covering another new Nintendo Switch eShop sale and 10 more great Switch deals worth buying, so let's get into it. The first game on today's list is Whispike Survivors. Now, Whispike Survivors is a Vampire Survivors-like game, and so it's a reverse bullet hell survival game, and you're to play as different plant-like creatures trying to survive. And so you'll have a variety of weapon types to choose from, and each one will auto fire, but they have their own unique abilities, and you'll need to fight off a never-ending horde of enemies flying at you in hopes to survive. And so over time, as you defeat these enemies, you'll gain experience points to level up your character, giving you new weapon types to choose from, new powered up abilities, and enhancing your existing weapon types as well. The game also has a unique farming mechanic where throughout battles and runs you'll gather different soil and fertilizer you can use to upgrade your characters for permanent stat boosts and also enhance their basic abilities. And so it's a cool concept, and while it's not necessarily as robust as Vampire Survivors, it's still definitely challenging and addicting gameplay. And if you're looking for another reverse bullet hell type fix, this one could be worth checking out. The next game on today's list is 30XX. Now 30XX is a Mega Man-like game that's an action platformer that's incredibly fast-paced, but this time you also have some roguelike elements as well. And so you do have more of a standard mode, which is kind of like your typical Mega Man X style game where you'll have a stage select screen and you can choose from a variety of stages and bosses that you'll encounter at the end. But then it also has some roguelike elements, in a roguelike version you can play as well. And so you'll have two different playable characters you can choose from. One is more ranged like your Mega Man style character, and then the other one is more melee focused, which is kind of like Zero from that series. And so you'll have very tight and responsive controls, but you'll be able to dash around the screen, jump, wall jump, and attack enemies. And as I mentioned, you'll be able to acquire different weapon types as you progress throughout the game and defeat bosses. But on top of that, you'll have a variety of options to power up your characters as well through the roguelike elements. Now in the roguelike version, it isn't a permanent upgrade in that sense. You'll kind of have these upgrades per run, but in the standard mode, there'll be more permanent upgrades to your character, making them more powerful. On top of that, it has challenging bosses, as I mentioned, kind of that Mega Man style where you'll go through an action platforming level and then take on a boss at the end. And there's different shops along the way you'll be able to discover to upgrade your characters. There's even local co-op features and much more. And so if you like Mega Man X and that style of fast-paced action platforming, but also want to try it out with some roguelike elements, adding more addictive elements to the game, I think you'll enjoy this one as well. The next game is Ultra Pixel Survive. Now, Ultra Pixel Survive is a roguelike action RPG that meets survival game with some little bits of Minecraft thrown in the mix as well. And so the basic story is you're just playing as a villager trying to defend your village against oncoming monster hordes. Now, while the story is pretty lackluster, it does make up for that with incredibly addicting and fun gameplay. And so you'll be able to choose from a variety of characters at the start of the game, and each one will have their own unique weapon type and special ability, but also different base stats as well. And so you'll have different standard abilities you'll be able to use throughout the game. So you'll be able to chop down trees for wood resources, you'll be able to mine for resources, attack using your weapon, and then your special attack as well. And so you'll need to survive through different day-night cycles and oncoming monster attacks. And so during the daytime hours, there's light monster attacks here and there, but they're more so focused on gathering resources and preparing for the night attacks and night cycle where monsters will come at an alarming rate and you'll need to continue to defend your village. And so not only will you have to gather resources to defend your village and build structures to take out enemies like spike pits, cannons, walls, and much more, you'll also need to get food along the way, either killing enemies for food or growing your own crops to make sure you don't starve to death. And so again, you'll be trying to survive as long as you can, boosting up your defenses, but also leveling up your character along the way. So you'll be able to level up things like your wood chopping speed, how fast you can mine for materials, but also enhancing your weapons and attack power as well. On top of building the defenses, you'll also be able to upgrade them, making them more powerful over time as well, to take on the endless hordes of enemies and boss fights that come your way. The gameplay has a cool pixel art style, a ton of different unlockables, and that roguelike element where you can permanently boost your base stats for your characters, unlocking new characters and much more, which adds a ton of replay value to the game and makes it incredibly addicting as well. If you haven't yet played Ultra Pixel Survive, I definitely recommend it. Roguebook is the next game on today's list. And so Roguebook is a roguelike deck building game meets turn-based RPG, and it kind of feels like you're playing a turn-based RPG mixed with a deck builder, mixed with a tabletop RPG. And so you'll find yourself trapped inside a book and you'll need to find a way out to escape it. And so it's kind of an open world feel almost, where you're traveling along the page of the book, but the map itself is all shaded and covered up. And so as you explore, you'll slowly reveal the map, and there's a lot of different things that you can discover. You'll be able to discover hidden items, treasures, and monster fights, but it also is kind of a press your luck type mechanic, where you do have the main battle you're trying to get to throughout the stages, but then you can also optionally take on these enemy battles in hopes of powering up your characters, improving your deck, and gathering new items, but at the risk of hurting yourself or potentially dying before you clear the stage. So that exploration aspect is really cool, where a lot of deck building games have just that linear progress with them, such as Slay the Spire. Not that that's a bad thing by any means, but it is cool having this open world type concept mixed with that deck building game element as well. There's lots of different ways you can upgrade your characters, upgrade your cards, find new characters, and much more. So there's a ton to explore, but has that backbone of the super fun and addicting deck building mechanics as well. And so if you like RPGs and deck building, this one's a must play as well. Super Crush KO is the next game on today's list. And so this is an over-the-top action platformer with some light beat-em-up elements. And you actually play as Karen, a young girl whose cat has been kidnapped by an evil robot, and you go on a quest to save your cat. So like I mentioned, it's kind of over-the-top and funny, but it does have fast-paced action, platforming, and combat mixed into one. And so it is a similar feel to like a 2D style beat-em-up, where you'll be using your melee attacks, so punches and kicks, mixed with different gun elements to take out enemies on screen. On top of that, there's a cool combo mechanic where you'll try and rack up the combo as high as you can, earning more points and earning letter grades depending on how well you did. You'll have a variety of attacks that you'll be able to unleash as you progress throughout the game, and challenging boss fights mixed in as well. The game isn't super long, but it is a lot of fun, and it's definitely a great value for the money, especially on this great discount and sale like it is right now. The next game on today's list is Lost Castle. And so Lost Castle is a roguelike dungeon crawler meets beat 'em up. And you'll play as different treasure hunters as you're diving into a castle that has been cursed and overrun by demons. And so you'll start off each run with randomized weapons, but over time you'll be able to find new weapons and new armors to make your character more powerful. And there's a lot of different weapon types as well, which really alter your play style. So you'll have things like swords, guns, bow and arrows, magical staffs, and much more. And on top of that, you'll have armor that will impact a lot of elements with your character as well. So it might make you really fast or have incredibly high defense, or maybe you have a lot of hit points, and you'll need to mix and match your weapons and armor to find the best combination for yourself as you progress through the levels. And so it is a roguelike game as well, so you'll probably die quite a bit, but as you progress, you'll be able to unlock new power-ups throughout a massive skill tree. So you can power up things like your hit points, your attack, your defense and speed, and much more. On top of that, it has a unique potion mechanic where you'll find different potions as you explore each level, but you never know exactly what they do. You kind of have a hint based on the color of the potion, but sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad, so you kind of have to press your luck and decide when you use these potions. And so again, it could be a helpful potion, but it could be a hindrance and debuff as well. On top of that, there's local co-op, and this was a lot of fun. I enjoyed playing through this with my girlfriend. And so if you like beat 'em ups and dungeon crawlers, I would highly recommend Lost Castle as well. The next game on today's list is Super Cyborg. Now Super Cyborg is an action platforming run and gun shooter, very similar to classic titles like the Contra series, and you'll play as a cyborg that has been sent to a mysterious island that is having alien attacks and mysterious alien happenings, and you need to unravel the mystery and stop this alien invasion. And so like I said, it's definitely a fast-paced action run and gun shooter, but the good news is it has very responsive controls and it is very challenging. So again, expect things like one-hit kills, limited lives, limited continues, and more. And so it can be quite difficult, but at the same time, there are checkpoints within the levels, so that can help a little bit, but probably not something where you're going to easily clear every level on your first playthrough. You'll have a variety of weapons that you can find along the way, and different special power-ups as well. There's challenging bosses and really cool level design, and if you like run and gun shooters and want a similar experience to classic Contra games, I think this one's worth checking out as well. The next game on today's list is Cat Quest. Now Cat Quest is a lighthearted action RPG that's full of cat puns and addictive gameplay. And so you actually play as a young cat hero that has dragon blood descent, giving you magical powers, but at the very beginning of the game, your sister is kidnapped and you need to go on a quest to save her. And so what's really cool is that it's kind of an open world action RPG, and it's definitely fun for the whole family as well. A lot of the mechanics are pretty simplified, but it really doesn't make it any less fun. And so you'll have your standard attack as well as a dodge roll, but then you can map the other controller buttons to different magic spells and abilities that your character has. On top of that, there's a ton of different weapons and items and armor pieces that you can find to enhance your character and alter their play style. On top of that, you can level up these weapons and items as you progress throughout the game. There's all kinds of different side quests to find as you explore throughout the game. A massive world that's open world, so you can really go wherever you want and accept side quests all throughout the game. Like I said, the game has a really fun sense of humor, lots of puns thrown in the mix as well. And if you like lighthearted action RPGs, this one's definitely worth picking up. The next game on today's list is Curse of the Dead Gods. Now Curse of the Dead Gods is a roguelike dungeon crawler that feels a lot like Hades or other top-down isometric dungeon crawling roguelike games. And so it is that action RPG element to it, where you'll need to attack and dodge and parry enemies, and this is very challenging as well, and so it kind of feels like Dark Souls-like combat thrown in the mix as well, where you're definitely going to need to memorize enemy patterns and really time your attacks and dodges and parries if you hope to survive. And as you progress throughout the dungeon, you'll find different relics that can give your character different buffs and enhanced abilities. But on top of that, it also has a unique corruption mechanic, is kind of a press your luck, risk and reward type scenario. And so how this works is, again, a lot of times you'll be able to accept new relics or new power-ups for your character in exchange for adding corruption to your character. And as your corruption builds and builds, it'll give you more and more weaknesses and debuffs and hindrances, making it that much harder to clear the level. Again, it does have those roguelike elements, so there are some aspects where you can permanently power up your character as you progress through more runs, and this makes it incredibly addicting. And if you like roguelike dungeon crawlers, this one's definitely a must play as well. The final game on today's list is the Takeover. And so the Takeover is a classic inspired beat 'em up, very similar to arcade classics like Streets of Rage. And the premise of the story is kind of similar as well. And so in this game, you're playing as different heroes that are trying to take on gangs that have overrun the city, and all the different factions have bound together, making sort of a super gang. And along with this, they actually kidnapped your adoptive daughter at the same time. And so you need to go on a quest to stop these gangs and rescue your adoptive daughter. And so as you progress and play through the game, you'll have different playable characters you can choose from. And again, similar to classic arcade style beat 'em up games, each one of the characters kind of has their own feel to them. So one of them is kind of more of an all-around character. Another one is a little bit more fast, but they're not quite as strong. And then there's another character that is a lot stronger, but a little bit slower. And so this can definitely lead to multiple playthroughs of the game so you can experience them all. It also has some really cool comic books cutscenes to progress through the story as you play through the game. But on top of that, there's also some variety of level design where it's not just strictly side-scrolling beat-em-up action. There is some car chase scenes in the game. You can pick up a variety of gun types as well, and there's some scenes where you're taking on monsters, zombie-like creatures with kind of unlimited ammo from your gun and much more. And the game style is kind of that standard arcade style where you have your attacks, your super attacks that can deal way more damage, but you'll sacrifice some life to use them. And there's also a rage meter that slowly builds up over time. And when you unleash this, you'll be invincible for a limited time to take out a lot of different enemies on the screen. The gameplay is certainly challenging, but it is a lot of fun. And if you like classic arcade beat 'em up games, this one's worth picking up as well. But with that said, that wraps up our list of 10 more great games worth buying in this latest Nintendo Switch eShop sale. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you're going to pick up any of these games or have played them before, let us know your thoughts on them in the comments below. And if you'd like to help support the channel, pick out content and more, consider becoming a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And another really cool way you can help support the channel is that we actually recently partnered with a game store, Nutmeg Games. And so if you head to nutmeggames.com/nerdproblemsgaming, or use our promo code NERDPROBLEMSGAMING at checkout, you'll actually help support our channel and get 10% off your order at the same time. So if you like things like board games, Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Magic cards, and more, head to nutmeggames.com/nerdproblemsgaming, or again, use our promo code NERDPROBLEMSGAMING at checkout to get 10% off your order and help support the channel at the same time. And if you like videos like this on video games, board games, and everything nerdy, check out one of our other videos here. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out, and so you don't miss out on any future sale videos, so you can take advantage of these great deals. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.